Shepherds of Men is a secular movement started by three men of faith. We wholeheartedly believe that when we get the men right, we get the world right. We believe this because we believe that men are created and called to be leaders, and we believe there is an alarming deficit of leadership in our world today.
And although the three of us have come from drastically different backgrounds, our core principles have given us a unified voice that is needed now more than ever to pave the way for a fundamental change in our culture.
We are quite literally calling men to something great.
Welcome to the movement.
What is up, world? This is Cam coming at you with my brother JP and the Movement Podcast from Shepherds of Men. What's up, JP?
How you doing, man?
How you doing, man?
Man,
we are pretty pumped. There's a lot of good stuff going on. We'll save that to the end and get you an update on what's happening with the Men Reforged program and all the accoutrement with that. But
accoutrement.
I know, right? I don't even know what that means.
You've been down in Louisiana or something, man, eating some of that
Cajun
Creole
comes out every
stuff.
now and then. Yeah. Well, it's getting crawfish season, so. But we've got a really special guest. We were actually recently privileged to be on a podcast of a gentleman named Brian Pannuzzo, who's out in California. And because we were on his, we asked him to be on ours. And so the con worked, and he is here. And we were privileged to have him. So what's up, Brian? How you doing, man?
What's up, man? Don't hold the California thing against me. I'm from the East Coast originally, and I did not know that there was a crawfish season. So I'm pumped to get it myself, man.
Well, I appreciate you making the clarity on that, because I was going to redeem you and let everybody know that you're not originally from California. So now that you have claimed East Coast, and we're already one step ahead. So
well, he did, he took the age-old wisdom of like watch what everybody's doing and do the opposite. So everybody's flocking to the East Coast right now. He went West Coast to kind of carry his thought process out there.
Although I did move before COVID, I did have on my mind U-Haul prices are so much cheaper going west.
That's some long-term thinking right there.
Somebody needs them to bring them back, right? They're all one way this way. Somebody's got to get them to bring
all our trucking friends.
Boys. Throw this coaching thing aside. Start a little biz.
There you go.
Just start deadheading U-Hauls.
Diversification right there, buddy.
That is awesome. This is how magic happens right here, and millionaires.
That's exactly right.
I love it. So we met, and we talked about this on your podcast, but for our listeners, we met through some mutual friends that are, in the similar space. We all kind of have our own niche marketing. Man, I'm going Cajun and French, which is kind of like cousins.
It's the same
and we're 5 minutes in. Yeah. And some would argue that the Cajuns can cook better than the French.
Ooh, you better watch out.
That's why it's an argument.
That's why you're going to get an email
right there
on the way.
So
now you're speaking to your audience right now. You're making statements like that.
That's exactly right. Oh, yeah. So let's go back on this. And Brian, your podcast is very structured and professional, and we appreciate that. We're not going to
until I had you guys on. Yeah, it was until I had you guys on.
What he had said.
It was until you had us on. Yeah, we get that. That might be why we're not invited on many of them, JP. Maybe we should consider catering to their There is a crawfish season. This is bonus material for those of you that are subscribers to the podcast. I don't know the exacts, and I'm going to be disowned by my family in South Mississippi for this, but I do know that it's in the Mardi Gras time frame towards the spring is when the crawdaddies are freshest. If you can have a fresh crawdaddy, little mud bug, but they're delicious. So anyways, that's that. So next time you're in Louisiana, you'll know what time to go. I would avoid Mardi Gras like the plague. If you do that once, it's probably going to be more than enough, but the crawfish is worth the trip. So I got
a crawfish story for you if you want one quick.
Let's hear it. Yes.
I mean, it's not that great, but 79th Street Boat Basin on the West Side Highway in Manhattan on the Hudson River. They'd have a crawfish boil. I don't know if they did it more than once a year, but it was once a year, and it was fantastic. I didn't know even how to eat these little fuckers. But you show up, you drink like 1,000 beers, and at that point, whatever you ate tasted pretty good.
Yeah.
So great outdoor bar in the summer, good spot to go get some drinks after, happy hour after work. And on the weekend, one weekend, I forget when it was, but it was sometime in the summertime, obviously. they would have a crawfish boil. So, so I got
That's
some
awesome.
experience.
That was in New York.
Yeah, they weren't
Yeah,
locally
in
sourced,
Manhattan.
right?
Yeah, definitely. Those are Hudson River. Hudson
Oh,
River
God.
source. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where the 1,000 beers come in.
That's right. That's right.
You'd be drinking liquor.
Why does this taste like a diaper?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. You guys from New York. It's like you're from New York. I love it.
Oh yeah. Oh, been up there several times.
That's shocking to me, honestly, that there's crawfish in Manhattan. So to be honest, like I really hadn't had a lot of desire to go there until just now.
Okay.
It's like the stock has been raised now. So Brian, tell us, for our audience, tell us a little bit or a lot or however much you want to about your background. I know you're founder and owner of Success Lift, which has a lot of different pieces to it. Obviously some coaching and podcasting and everything else, but just give us your story, man.
Yeah, you got it. I'll try to speed this up because it's a long one. But I
your
reference
time, dude.
I reference New York. I am from New Jersey, just outside of New York City, a town called Bergenfield. I grew up in Bergen County, which is just over the George Washington Bridge, New York City suburb. I was an athlete growing up. I was a basketball player. I played college. I played basketball in college in Vermont. I went to college to play basketball, and guys on the team were all business and economics majors. It was a heavy Boston, heavy New York City school. In the summers, we all did internships. I decided to be a business and economics major because the guys on my team, the older guys on my team, told me what classes to take, who to leave tickets for, what to do, what not to take. It was super easy for me. And, I found myself in this path of just doing what older guys on the team were doing. And it served me because they were doing some really great things. And so in the summers, I'd come home, we'd go to the Jersey Shore, we'd fist pump with Snooki and
chapstick and the whole deal.
Yeah, everything, man, everything, glow sticks, all of it. Yeah. And you'd play in summer leagues. All right. You'd work in Manhattan and doing internships at some financial firms. And so that was the pattern I found myself in. And when I came to graduate, I wanted to go play basketball professionally in Europe because I didn't want to work because I was 21, and who the hell wants to start working when you're 21? And so
I don't even want to now.
Seriously. And so I attempted to go through the process of becoming an Italian citizen because when you were a dual citizen, when you had dual citizenship, you could play on better teams, you could make more money, bigger clubs, bigger cities, your own apartment versus sharing one with three guys, your own car versus sharing one. And I couldn't get it done in time. I had to go through a lot of paperwork. I just couldn't get it done. And I felt this calling as it approached kind of the winter of the following, school year when I graduated in May or June. And it was like December of 1999. I'm 45. And I was like, damn, I gotta get my life going. I forewent going into a bunch of different training programs that start at the end of the summer, typically at big banks on Wall Street in Manhattan and all over the place. And I felt this calling to just get started because I felt like I was being left behind. All my other friends had started, they were working, they were making money, they were going out, they were partying. And, I was playing on a couple of touring teams that would go around and play exhibition games against colleges, getting paid like $200 a game, going out and spending it all at the bar with whatever friend that lived in the city that we were in. And so I did that. So I started my career in December of 1999 at Merrill Lynch as a financial advisor, and quickly shifted into a different area of the business, but stayed within the financial services kind of, niche for 20 years, man, for 20 years. And I got successful quickly. I started to make good money quickly in my mid 20s or so. It took me a few years, but in my mid 20s, I started to become pretty successful. And I did what, every other young Wall Street guy does. I had to be out a lot. I had to be out, 2, 3, 4 nights a week with customers. I was definitely drinking a lot. Was definitely gambling a lot. Was definitely smoking a lot. Was definitely doing whatever drugs that came my way. I was a professional at doing all of these things, but I also was a professional at showing up the next day. I never really got into a situation where I got over my skis. I ended up in the gutter. I ended up over the guardrail. I kind of bumped up against the guardrails in life, and then I shifted back on to the highway, and I kept going. And this formula was working for me. I met my wife, who I've now been married to for 15 and a half years, and kept going, kept doing what I was doing. And I had evidence to suggest that what I was doing in my life was working. because I was able to buy a big ass house. I joined a country club. I had 2 nice cars. We took nice vacations. I found myself in this, I call it the rat race, but in this cycle of making money, spending money, making money, spending money, and yeah, I put money away and I saved and did this and that. But for the most part, I created a lifestyle that then required me to go, do all the things that I was doing that wasn't working in every area of my life. It was working in one area, right? It was working professionally. So if you looked on the facade, like, if you peeked in the front door of my house, things looked pretty good, had a beautiful home. I looked good enough. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'6", 230-ish pounds, right? I'm in good shape now.
Handsome.
And maybe handsome. Thank you. And I was only probably 240 then, but I really didn't gain any weight coming out of college. I really just redistributed body comp. And so I had tricked myself into thinking that I wasn't, grossly out of shape, which I was. And this is now about 8 years ago, almost to like right around this time. My mom passed away 8 years ago. And during the 8 months or so leading up to her passing away, dying on January 5th, 2015, I kind of lived the life that I was just describing of pedestrian, drug, alcohol, and gambling addictions on steroids, like massive, massive steroids, because I was a champion at showing up. And that's my superpower. I show up. You're not going to show up more than me most of the time, if not all the time. But I wasn't very good at showing up mentally. I wasn't very good at handling things in my life. I couldn't have a tough Tuesday without taking down a bottle of wine, eating a couple gummies. Of course, I'm going to need a Xanax or an Ambien or something to go to bed after, the alcohol and the drugs and whatever. Like, I could not process things emotionally. I could not process things mentally. I was a champion at taking all the stress, all the issues in my life, crumpling it up. I'm making a nice, rounding motion with my hands right now, crumpling it up into a nice tight ball and jamming it down as far as I could so that I didn't have to deal with it. I worked in a very alpha environment. Although, teams, the locker room can be a place where there's tremendous bonding as well as a trading desk, which is what I experienced for 20 years. It's also sometimes a place where men don't really want to tell each other what's going on. And so I grew up in a locker room and I lived in a locker room my entire athletic career and then my entire professional career for 20 years. And so I conveniently would just check my feelings at the door, literally check my feelings at the door. Like, no one wanted to hear about your shit. Show up and produce. And so, I became a champion at that. I became really, really, really good at that. And it worked well for me until it didn't. And one day, a few weeks, which is why I'm saying right about now, we're recording like mid-January 2023, right? Right about now, 8 years ago, my wife came to me and said, we had a 5-year-old and a 6-month-old at the time. She said, I don't know about this. This is not what I signed up for. I'm gonna hang around because I don't want to split custody with you, and I don't want my daughter and my son to have another mother, have a stepmother. But like, this isn't who I know you can be. And I just need you to be the man. I need you to be the man that you're capable of. I need you to be the man that you were when I met you, or I thought you were when I met you, because I probably never was truly authentic with my wife. And so I'm going to hang around, but I don't know about this. And, I say I woke up in air quotes because nothing other than my mom passing away was out of my control, and nothing happened overnight. This was a slow degradation of trust that I experienced in my relationship. This was me chipping away at, the lack of integrity that I had in my relationship. And so looking back on it, I realized that, I had done all the things that I was experiencing in that moment to myself, and I needed to figure it out. And I was thrust into a crisis. And so I quickly just started to do something. I figured if I got into shape, if I got back into shape, which I was in shape when I met my wife, maybe my wife would love me more, which is bullshit, but like, it seemed to be logical to me. And so I started to do that. I got in better shape. I started to learn a little bit more about why, and maybe some of the things that my mom was going through. My mom died of ALS, which is a neurological disease, fatal neurological disease. Neurological diseases have a lot of connections to your lifestyle. Whether or not it was my mom's lifestyle that ultimately, led to her, passing away, I don't know, but I know that her lifestyle wasn't, the best that it could be. And I started to find some new passions. And so I stopped taking home research reports and analyst reports and quarterly reports. And I stopped listening to the news and to market stuff. And I started paying attention to personal development people and health and nutrition podcasts and, reading different books. And the more I started to keep promises to myself, the more I started to gain confidence. And the more I gained confidence, the more I started to treat other people around me with the same respect that I started to treat myself. And I'll fast forward a bit, but I started to grow my mind. I started to look for new people to surround myself with, because I realized that I was not necessarily doing what I wanted to do with my life. I made a decision at 17 years old to become a business and economics major because a bunch of older guys on my basketball team were, and that shaped the next 20 years of my life. I mean, how many of us choose a major in college and 15 years later find ourselves sort of within that realm of the same thing that that we decide. I was a child. I mean, I just barely got my license, and I made a decision that shaped the next 20 years of my life. At no point in time was I making that decision consciously. Now, some people do things that aren't even remotely close to their majors in college, but I think a lot tend to stay in the same area, right? Because we find a job, we make a little money, and then we get promoted, and then we make a little more money. And it's 10 years in, how am I going to go back? I don't want to take a step back. And so I found myself questioning a lot of things in my life. And if, certain things aren't true, I'm destined to be this ex-athlete, Wall Street, broken down body, addiction laden guy that just happens to be successful professionally and make a lot of money. What else is not true, right? I told myself this story that, I sat in a chair all day. It was a sedentary culture. I drove 1 hour each way in and out of New York City. You're not getting big ass salads and protein shakes at work. You're ordering cheesesteaks and pizza. Don't try to do any lunges or do any mobility at the office to maintain any, health, because you'll get made fun of. And so you turn on TV. I tell this story a lot. You turn on TV, I love basketball. Obviously, you turn on the NBA on TNT. You see Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith. Those fucking guys can't even walk, man. When they're walking up to the teleprompter to try to show something on the screen, they're broken down. I thought I was destined to be this broken down guy. The mirror that I had at the office was a guy. I was 23 years old, 24 years old, a guy in his mid 40s, maybe early 50s, who was making a couple $1,000,000 a year, who was on the brink of divorce or divorced, who got up out of the chair and limped for his first 10 steps because his body was fucked, who was out 4 nights a week, who had drug and alcohol addictions. That was success to me. And that's not that's not an excuse, but that was success. That's what I was chasing. And as I started to understand that it didn't have to be my story, and my destiny, I started to question other things am I doing what I really love on a daily basis? And that one took a while to break down, and we can get into that if you want, but fast forward, so I'll stop talking. About 5 years ago, 5 years ago? Yeah, 4 years ago, 4 years ago officially. 5 years ago, I joined a program like a lot of the programs that you guys have. Let's plug the amazing stuff that you guys do. And the guys in that program challenged me to do something different with my life. And so I started a side hustle. I started working with men like me who were struggling, mostly health and nutrition coaching. But as we all know, we all kind of know what to do. So a lot of it ended up becoming, mindset and life coaching. And I did that for about a year. And in April of 2019, I left a 20-year Wall Street career, and different timing and different reasons, but moved our family from New Jersey, just outside of New York City, to California, just outside of Los Angeles. And for the last 4 to 5 years, I've been working with men whose professional success has cost them a lot of the same things it cost me. Their health is shit. Their marriages are shit. They have addictions. They have, issues with their mindset and things like that. So it's a long-winded explanation of about 20 plus years of my life. Follow-up questions. I'll take them.
I feel like it's pretty concise if you think about it as 20 years, you know?
So what was your favorite drug? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just
kidding. Speed, obviously.
Yeah.
Wall Street.
We'll watch, dude. I'll watch a Wall Street, like a Wolf of Wall Street with my wife, you know, and they're like pounding it at lunch. And she's like, was that like your lunches? And I'm like, nah, I wish.
Like my lunches. Yeah. Matthew McConaughey was never there.
Never. I was about 10 years. I missed it by about 10 years. Like, so I started in the early 2000s. If you were like in the early 90s, mid 90s, and of course before, but like the early 90s or so, like there were like cocaine lunches. Yeah. There were just cocaine like at the club after dinner type of situations going on, maybe in the bathroom, but like no one was like ripping out, you know, lines on the desk in my day, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of us fall into that. You know, I know I was in the restaurant industry. I got into that industry in college. Which certainly lent itself to experiencing a lot of things. And, you know, and then I was in logistics and in a brokering world, but on the logistics side of it. And there's a lot of same mentality. It's just like, it's super competitive. Everybody's fighting for freight in that world. You know, we're fighting for customers and it's go, 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 it's so anyways, and you can get caught up in it as dudes, as we all know, and as our listeners know, as dudes, we can get super focused on trying to achieve, you know, and then we lose focus on what really is the goal and what is the victory, which has nothing to do with our title or our bank account or anything else. It has not that you shouldn't have a fat ass bank account. We're big believers in that you should make a ton of money if you're 100%. A good dude, because it's an amplifier. Yeah. Right. And if you're a shitty dude, I hope you stay broke because it's an amplifier, you know, or you become a good dude and then start making money. But the things that really matter, you know, inside the four walls of your house. And it's so easy to just dive into your work when you're on that level of whatever, you know, anxiety or whatever. What you got?
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, to your point, because it got me thinking, and I don't know if I stressed this enough. Like my life was pretty good. And what I mean by that is like my marriage wasn't terrible. We had sex, you know, we had a good enough relationship. I showed up to my kids' stuff. I wasn't like this drunk showing up to my kids' stuff. I never missed a major thing. Now, I didn't make many minor things. I told myself, like, you know, I'm a producer, you know, I can't do certain things. This is my role. Like, so, you know, again, that evidence to suggest comment is really real for me. And I think is a dangerous place for a lot of men, because I didn't end up in the hospital because I was a fucking, you know, moron one night or something like that. I didn't get into a fight at the bar and get knocked out. I didn't lose so much money gambling that I had to raise my hand to my wife and go, you're going to see a massive withdrawal out of our savings account into our checking account, and then a huge cash withdrawal because I got to go pay some bookie. Like everything. It took a lot of energy, but to keep it up, I was able to. I just moved some money here, moved some money there. Like money came in. Like I never, you know, I lost $1,000 here, $600 here, $400 here, $2,000 here. It was never like, babe, I went to Vegas or Atlantic City and I lost 20 grand, you know, this weekend. Or like I did not show. I always showed up to work. So I think there's a very dangerous place sometimes for men when things are okay.
They're working. Yeah. So it's a question for you. How close do you think you were to one of those scenarios, as far as, you know, whatever it may be, wrapping your car around a tree or losing a ton of money or getting your ass knocked out somewhere or whatever it may be? How many times do you think is like, man, that could have gone different very easily?
A lot. I mean, I certainly made some really poor decisions. I certainly lost, you know, it's all relative, but I certainly lost a lot of money gambling. I just happened to be fortunate to work my ass off and be in a good situation where I had a lot of money coming in. So, you know, it's all relative. I think if, you know, I would have lost some of the numbers, I don't throw numbers out and make them sound inconsequential because someone might be listening to this and go, what are you fucking kidding me? That's a paycheck for me. Mm-hmm. The point is like, I just had it coming in. So like, I didn't feel like it was a big deal going out. You know, there's something visceral about like you being at the blackjack table and constantly putting your chip on the table and watching the dealer take it away as you lose. Like it's painful. At some point, that pain is going to be like, dude, I can't do this anymore. when you're sports gambling and you're on an app or you're on your phone and you're just typing in, I'll find another $500 on this game. Cool. It doesn't hurt enough until on Monday morning when like you have to look at your balance and settle up with the bookie. But, again, I would just on Tuesday, I'd get back to it. I'd tell myself a story. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was usually pretty good. By Thursday, of course, right back to normal behavior. So, I think I was probably pretty close a lot of times. And truthfully, like it would have really benefited me. Obviously, I say this a lot. I fight with this a lot because like, I don't know if my mom didn't pass away, I'm not sure things would have changed. Maybe they would have changed at some point, but I don't know. They definitely wouldn't have changed when they did, and God, like, barring me hurting someone or hurting myself, I kind of wish I would have had an episode where it'd been like, snap me out of it. That moment where it was like, all right, what are you doing? That DUI, that event that happened, whatever, that public shame moment, because I was a champion at keeping the wheels on the bus and keeping the bus moving. My friends knew, what I was doing most of the time, but not many other people did, including my wife.
That's wild. And I bet there's a lot of dudes that can relate to it, unfortunately,
Well, I want to kind of go back to the comfort being a slow death, because I think that there's a lot of men that live in this kind of valley of despair that they have, right? Their bills are paid. They've got, a decent house. They're providing for their family. They're doing something that they don't hate enough to move. But they're not fulfilled, right? Like they don't understand, like life is meant to be lived, right? And in a lot of those situations, we get stuck into, trying to satisfy the external world's, I guess, perception of how we should live our lives, right? Like as a man, this is what you need to do. You need to go to college. You need to get a degree. You need to go work in an office. Which is, being vocally self-critical is where I'm at. It's one of the areas for me where, and that's the whole reason we started what we do, is because of the impact that we can make, right? And for me, most people from the exterior would be like, dude, you're doing fantastic. Like why, like most people would love to trade positions with you. That's why I got to be really careful with that. And when you say, comfort is a slow death, it's like one of those areas where you start to get, because I don't necessarily, I believe you can have episodes of depression. I'm not into the whole clinical thing and the pills and all that stuff personally, just for me. But I think that men get into that level of depression or just lose their wild side and stuff when they start to find out that it's like, okay, I've got everything taken care of. This is it. This is all there is to life. This is as far as I can go. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out and obviously, dope up on everything that you can find and put your hands on, but you get into a position where you're stuck and you're not actually living out your purpose, and I would imagine was there a difference in your mental health from going from, living that lifestyle, which most people would look at and go, dude, you're killing it, man. Great job. You're balling out, to where you're at now mentally. How's it different mentally for you?
Hugely different. I mean, I live a life of purpose now, I feel like, and I wake up, passionate about what I'm doing, where I realized that I wasn't passionate about what I was doing previously. And that's okay. I don't think like, I talk to a lot of people, I'm sure you guys do too. And a very common question is like, how do I find my purpose? How do I like become passionate about something? And a line I love that was taught to me, and I live it now, and I'm living proof of it, is that you don't find it. You're not walking down the street one day and go, oh, Cam, JP, check it out, boys. There's some purpose on the ground. Let's pick that shit up, put it in our pocket.
That's a whole pile of purpose over there.
Yeah, it's a whole pile of purpose. No, it's not found. It's forged. It's forged over time. It's typically forged over life experiences that you have, that you learn from, that then you realize like, oh, I am an idiot. I've been doing it the wrong way. I talk to, my guys a lot about the 4 stages of learning, right? There's unconscious incompetence. That's stage number 1. You don't know that you're an idiot. You have to be told. Someone comes along, knock, knock, knock. My wife comes along and goes, yo, moron, this is not what I signed up for, right? You instantly become consciously incompetent. You can't go back, right? You can't, someone has told you, or you've been made aware that you are now consciously not doing the right thing. Then becomes conscious competence, right? You have to actively try to do the right thing. And you go back and forth between those two things, ultimately, hopefully becoming unconsciously competent in certain things. And now it's not just like you become Gandhi and you're unconsciously competent in all areas of life. Like in my nutrition, I'm probably pretty close to unconsciously competent right now. I don't really make many lazy mistakes. I don't make any lazy mistakes. Now I cannonball off of the diving board into the deep end of fun when I'm ready to do that and when the moment calls for me. In other areas of my life, like, alcohol, like potentially some drugs, sometimes gambling, I'm pretty much done with, but I still have to be consciously competent, especially like around some trigger areas for me. I love to play golf. On the golf course, I can overconsume alcohol with the best of them. That might lead to a poor decision for me after the fact. And so, let's circle back to the purpose thing. I think you have to experience this stuff, right? And you mentioned, about comfort and people wanting to change. I love this concept of like, you will not change your life until the pain you are currently experiencing exceeds your perception of the pain that you will go through to change. What do I mean by that? I mean, changing is painful, right? Doing something different is painful, even if it's healthier, right? Like it's comfortable as hell to sit on the couch. You know what to expect when you show up to work hungover. You've done it over and over and over again. Is it ideal? No. But did I still make a lot of money doing it? Yeah. And so even comfort is comfort. Comfort's not healthy, right? There's comfort food, right? That's not healthy food usually, right? Comfort's comfort. Now, when your wife knocks on your door and says, I don't know about this, boom, all of a sudden I'm in a new state of pain that to me now feels far greater and far worse than any potential pain I might experience changing, reducing my drinking, stopping gambling, stopping doing drugs, coming home when I say that I'm going to come home, doing the things that I say that I'm getting back into shape, doing the things that I say that I'm going to do. All those things are going to cost me effort, time, money, whatever. But when I manage that against how do I currently feel? Am I in pain? Pain is much more greater right now. I'm doing whatever I have to do. So people get thrust into action, I feel like in my experience, when that pain level of pain becomes so great that they will stop at nothing to change. And why do a lot of men that we talk to find themselves in this cul-de-sac, right, of not being able to do anything about it? Well, because like, as you said, JP, like they're not in enough pain, right? You're making money. You do get laid every once in a while. Other times you get to watch porn. Your family is not broken up. You see your kids every day. You have a decent enough job. Is it your dream job? Are you making what you want to make? No. But like, are you paying your bills? Maybe putting a little bit of money away, going on a vacation here and there? Yeah. So it's like we settle for like, all right, this is what everyone else says life is about. You got the old ball and chain at home. You don't get laid like you used to when you were dating. Like I think I'm experiencing now in my marriage, 15 plus years in, like sex can be better than it was when you first started dating. And like, why shouldn't it be? Why have we all been sold this bullshit story that like we're supposed to grow sort of apart and not be as connected and not have as good a sex and not have this and not have that because we've been together longer. We know each other better. Why shouldn't it be better? So right. Like I'm all over the place here, but
well, I want to hit on a couple things you said. One, the sex with your wife and getting better. And we've got a guy coming into our next event, which is February 11th. If you're listening to this prior to that, John Michael Clark, I think we may have mentioned him to you before, Brian, but you definitely should check him out. I think you really like his stuff. But he does a lot of coaching in that environment. And I know, obviously, other guys that are kind of in that world, but it's true. It's a gift that was given to a marriage, and it should be enjoyable and frequent. But I want to go back to something else that you kind of mentioned earlier, and you just hit on again. In this time when you were like realizing, I'm going to stop, I'm going to have different habits in my life. You had mentioned stop watching the news, the market, start listening to, podcast or whatever, start reading stuff different, start hanging out with different people. That's the piece that I want to go to because it's such an important part of what we believe helps a man, as we would say, become an influential man, positively influential in his relationships, in his community, his family and whatnot. And when we put our program together, association was the number one thing that we talked about, like right out of the gate, we were very adamant about changing your association if it needs changing, or just being very aware of your association, but not just with the people that you associate with, but also the content that you associate with. So it just so happened that it worked out to be the first letter of our active ethos, but originally it was just the first thing we thought of that was important. So could you give us like your experience of that, and how strongly you believe in the importance of controlling your environment and your association?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with sort of what you just summarized. And I didn't really touch upon it. I brushed over it saying like I found, personal development, whatever. What I did was I wasn't a huge social media guy. I found social media, a little bit of Twitter, a little bit of Instagram, and I started to pay attention to some, health professionals, right? And some of the people that I started to pay attention to also talked about this thing called, personal development and growth and mindset. And good luck trying to tell an alpha athlete, Wall Street bro from New Jersey who worked on Wall Street, who made good money. Good luck talking to me about personal development. Get the F out of here with your soft ass weak shit. So like you couldn't have told me 5 years prior in my early 30s about this, or in my 20s, ever. I would have been like, bro, look at what I have. Like, what do you got? You know what I mean? And so I was so closed off to it. So I just was fortunate to find, some of the right people who were talking about this dual message, which I now understand are unbelievably connected. Because like we all know what to do. We all know to, we should eat better and we should move our asses more, right? Or some varying degree of that. Why don't we do it? But we don't do it because we're all fucked up in the head, and so I started to find some of these people and upgrade my relationships. I mentioned, that group that I joined in 2018, Jay Ferruggia, who's now a very good friend of mine. He's a big fitness guy. He was this guy from New Jersey that had a podcast that I found. He had moved out to California. He had reinvented himself, and he was getting together this group of men. And I, reluctantly signed up for this, year-long program. I wrote him a big ass check, and I show up to the first event and I'm like, I'm the only fucking Wall Street guy here. It's like all fitness guys for the most part. But you know what? I got more in common with these guys than I do with the guys that I'm spending 12 or 14 hours a day with. Not to say that like the guys that I was spending time with weren't great people. They are great people. It's just like, start to upgrade your centers of influence. And that can start with your podcast, my podcast, listening to you guys, showing up to one of your events, right? It's never, I say this to my 13-year-old son who knows everything, right?
Yeah, I got one of those.
Hudson, can you do this for me? Yeah, Dad, I know. Well, motherfucker, if you know, why don't you do it? Do this shit.
Oh man.
Hudson, can you pick up your stuff? Like, hey, buddy, it's great that you're, working out a little bit while you're watching TV instead of just laying on the couch watching TV. But can you pick up the heel wedges and the bands? Yeah, Dad, I know. Okay. No, do it. Actually do it.
I didn't ask if you knew.
I didn't ask if you knew. I asked you to do it. So there's knowing, right? Doing and becoming. There's theory, practice, mastery. And all the cliche sayings, mastery is found in the mundane, right? You have to do this stuff. It's never been easier to know things in our life. We just pick up our phone and we ask Siri. We pick up our phone and we type in something to Google. Chat GPT is going to start doing shit for us on our own pretty soon. So where we become masterful is when we do things for thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And so you can upgrade your circle of friends by virtually. That's the beauty of the world that we live in right now. Now, should you go get in the room? Should you go to your event on February 11th and experience it and meet you guys and meet other people? Yes, it'll change your life. So please do that. Should you join programs like the ones that you guys have and get impacted like face-to-face or via calls and accountability and all the things that you guys do in your programs? Yes, you should. But can you at least take a first step by starting to subscribe to your podcast, listening to what you guys have to say? Maybe here's a good example. And some of my friends from high school give me a fucking hard time about this, but it's reality. It's my fault, not theirs. I would drive up the West Side Highway, which is the highway that runs up the west side of Manhattan on the Hudson River, every day driving home. On the left across the river was Fort Lee, New Jersey, right? Which is a commuter town where some of my friends would live. And there's high-rise buildings. And I would look at the building that I knew at least 2 or 3 of my friends were in almost every night of the week. And after going out and having a couple beers with a customer because I'm doing work stuff and I'm doing all the right things, I'd be driving and I'd look over and be like, well, some of my friends are there. I know it. I know it for a fact that some of them are there because a couple of them weren't married and they lived there, right? I know they'll be watching a game. I know they'll be smoking. I know they'll be drinking. I know there'll probably be something else, on the table that I'll want to partake in. And I also know, most importantly, that my wife will have absolutely no idea that I stopped there and didn't just stay out for another 2 hours in the city. And so when I come home at 11, it'll just be the same old thing. Brian was out for work, right? And so like I'd have to talk to myself, be like, looking left, looking straight, looking left, looking straight, and I'd have to talk to myself into going home, because not that they were bad influences. I was the bad influence. I was putting myself into that environment, but I realized that I wanted different things in my life. And when I wanted different things, I had to take different actions, right? It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. So I knew I needed to start doing different things. So I just didn't text them, didn't call them. They didn't call me. I showed up there. It wasn't like they were like, yo, man, stop by. Like, of course they always wanted to see me, but they were like, yo, stop by. No, I can't do it. Yo, you're a pussy. Why aren't you doing that? Like, I just showed up. I just texted them. So they didn't know that I just didn't reach out to them on Tuesday or Thursday or Wednesday. I saw them a week later. And you know what? Our friendship's still as strong as it ever was. It hasn't changed. It's the same. It was the same when I saw them the week later or 2 weeks later. So like, you could just pause maybe the frequency of times that you're hanging out with people that aren't serving you, and increase the frequency. Maybe it's virtually at first, the amount that you're consuming, from a positive standpoint. It's huge. It's a huge impact,
Dude. I'm so glad you talked about that, because I experienced this for myself, and I like what you said about I was negatively influencing myself. They weren't a bad influence. I was a bad influence on myself, because the fact of the matter is, it is extreme ownership. You are responsible for every choice that you make. So you can decide to be in whatever circles you want to be in. And, I'm sure all of our stories are similar, as we started changing the environments that we were in, the people we were around, the content we were consuming, the substances we were consuming, all those different things. And I had to do exactly that. And I've never really heard it put that way, but it's perfectly said for my experience. Was I had to press pause on some really great people that were really great friends of mine, but they just had different goals and different ambitions and different habits or whatever. And it's no judgment towards them. It's just that for me, I couldn't be in that environment and continue to grow myself to become the man that I knew God created me to be. So I had to remove myself from that environment. In my experience, it was for years. And then I recently was able to reconnect with that same group. And I'm talking about, we were like brothers in college. I mean, it's a very unique situation where we all got really, really tight. And literally just a few months ago, I was able to reconnect with them, kind of surprised them at a little getaway thing they had. And it was like nothing changed, dude. There was no judgment. There was no nothing. It was just like back in the fray. And it was all positive. We're all, like grown and married and kids now. So everybody's on top of their shit anyways. All those dudes have been successful in their different endeavors. And there was never one thing. And I say this and kind of reiterate what you're saying, because I know for a fact that if I was having these feelings, and maybe you were too, that there's other dudes out there that are going like, well, if I don't go hang out with those guys, then they're not going to think I'm cool. They're not gonna be my friend anymore. They're going to bust my balls, or, and there's all these things that we tell ourselves that like, it's going to be so bad if I make different decisions today. And it's not. It won't be comfortable and it won't be easy, but it is a very simple decision to make. And I think it's just, more dudes need to hear more and more often that just because you make that decision, the fact is, if they were the kind of friend that you really want to have long term, they're just going to respect it. They're going to respect the fact that you put your family first, and you put, honestly, yourself first, and your goals first, and what you wanted to achieve. And it had nothing to do with them, So
yeah, I went to an all boys Catholic high school. There are not a group of bigger idiots, and I say that lovingly about my friends, and I'm the chief idiot out there. And if we're the same, so are you guys. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing: like, anyone who truly cares about you will never ever, really truly like say something that like you're referring to. Like, will they bust your balls? Of course they will. But that's the nature of your relationship. I wouldn't have it any other way. Did all my friends on Wall Street bust my balls for like doing this life coaching stuff? Yeah. Does every one of them support me now? Yes, of course. And if they don't, then they don't really care about you anyway. They're not really your friends anyway. So everyone around you wants to support you. Everyone around you wants to help you and wants to see you thrive. And we tell ourselves this story that like we can't do it because we're going to look different. We're going to let somebody down. We're going to be different. When the reality is like people are starved for leadership. Here's an experience that I would go through at work a lot. I would live two different lives because when I was changing, I was still outside the office, Brian. Then I was inside the office, Brian. And I didn't want to rock the boat inside the office. Right. But then I finally got the sack to like start to do it a little bit. Okay. And a few people here and there would start to make fun of you, bust your balls. What are you doing, bro? What's that stretch thing you're doing? You know, like you're not going to get, you know, cheesesteaks with us. Like, no, I'm not, you know? And then, so a little bit of minor ridicule, just shit talking, friendly banter. And then, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 2 months later, you know, hey man, I see that you've lost some weight, or I see that, you know, you're doing this thing, like, hey, my back hurts. Like, is that thing that you do, like, is that work for you? Because my back's fucking killing me, you know, like, or like, hey, when you go get a salad next time, like, would just let me know, like, I'll go with you because I'm trying to like change my diet too. So they go from like sort of loosely ridiculing you to then, you know, kind of watching what you do, and then sooner or later they'll be asking you for your help, you know. And that's what started this whole thing for me. Was Jay, that guy that I'm talking to, that I've talked about, that I'm referring to, he asked me a question. He's like, you know, I said to him, like, yeah, you know, this career, man, you know, it pays well, but like, I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing in my life. And he's like, well, what would you do if you didn't need the money? You know, and I do need the money, but if you didn't need money, but you had to work 4 hours a day, what would you do? And I'm like, I don't really know. And then boom, it hit me. I'm like, you know what? I went through this big transformation, right? You know, my story, like, all these guys and some family members that saw me transform are now asking me for help. And it's been pretty cool helping them and seeing results. He goes, you should reach out to 10 of those guys and start coaching them, offer to help them. And I'm like, yeah, cool. That's a great idea. And then this is power of accountability, which is why people should start, you know, should get involved with you guys in your groups, right? On our group, that was a one-on-one call. A group call a week later, we're going around the horn. And he goes, Brian, what's up with the coaching? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, the side hustle you're going to start. Asking 10 guys. I go, I didn't do anything. He goes, all right, we'll talk next week. And I was like, well, fuck, this guy's not going to stop asking me. And so that night I asked 10 guys, and I thought 10 were going to laugh at me and 0 were going to say yes. 7 said yes. Wow. And so that was the start for me. So like, you never know. That's why I say purpose is forged, not found. Like this whole second stage of my life that will develop into things that I can't even imagine came from pain, came from conflict, came from turmoil, came from me being uncomfortable as hell, came from me being made fun of by my buddies, like, but it results in this, you know. And so you just don't know, you know, where some of the things that you are truly passionate about and drive you will come from until you sort of go through the fire.
Yeah, dude. And, you know, the truth is, it's cool to hear about how when you decided to kind of step out of the norm and you stayed consistent with it, you know, that I think that's another fear for men is that, well, this is super uncomfortable. What's the reaction going to be? But how many people are in that room, like whether it be consciously or subconsciously, waiting for someone to actually step up and be a real man so they can go, hey, bro, can you show me how to do that? You know, because the fact is, you know, followers, they're going to follow leaders, right? Until they become able to lead themselves. So if you can step up, and as we always talk about, we believe men are called to be leaders. So you can lead in any environment. So you can lead as simple as doing some stretching and eating a salad at the office. And if that positively influences another man to get out of his comfort zone and go, hey, Brian's always been pretty cool. He's just doing different things now. And he obviously looks different. He seems like he's got more energy. He seems happier, whatever, you know, I want to kind of find out what's going on. And now the ripple effect from that is who knows, right? I mean, just those 7 guys, let's say those 7 guys become better dudes and they go, you know, impact 7 guys, you know, and it goes on and on and on, all because you decided to make a few different daily decisions in front of them.
People are dying to be led. I've learned your wife is starving for you to schedule a date night, pick the spot, get the babysitter, clear the plans, and just tell her to show up wearing a certain thing, right?
Nothing underneath.
Nothing underneath. Yes. Nothing underneath. Your friends
easily
are dying.
Removable garments. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Your friends are dying for you to organize a meetup where you guys just go get beers and wings or do something that's maybe healthier, whatever. people around, that person at the office is dying for you to suggest a healthy alternative to the thing that you've always been doing. The first time I suggested to a customer who was a friend of mine, so I picked the right guy because I knew he'd be like, yo, nah. And I wouldn't suggest that to other people too. It was a Tuesday and I was like, dude, I know that we're going to get together tonight because we're supposed to, and nurture our relationship, and it's good for me for business and blah, blah, blah. But like, man, I'm just trying to drink less and it's fucking Tuesday. And so can we do something else? And I was like waiting for him to come off the top rope, like Jimmy Superfly Snuka, like, and like just drop on me. And he was like, thank God you asked me that, because I've been trying to stop drinking a decent amount too. And I had a long weekend and I finally took yesterday off, and I'm right back into the mixer today with drinks with you. And so, yeah, I would love to do something different. We did something different. So people are starving for it, man. We just don't oftentimes want to get uncomfortable enough to be the person to put ourselves out there to suggest it and to lead. But what I've always found every single time is that the result is not what you think it is. And it's usually way more positive.
100%.
Well, that goes back to fear, right? False evidence appearing real. We make up a story in our head most times that, oh, if I do this, I'm going to be ridiculed for it or whatever it may be. And even if you are, what you make up in your head is always worse than reality. So it's better to just take action than to live with that false reality in your head. And that's, you were talking about something earlier, and I think we get stuck in this, we call it mental porn, where we consume a lot of this stuff. And one of the mentors of ours actually did something on this that was talking about the difference between consuming and producing. If all you're doing is consuming all the time, which I would highly suggest you do consume, right? And that's, reading books, different things of that nature and stuff, but you don't ever pour out, you don't ever produce anything, then you start to become very stale, right? You start to become kind of nasty, right? And that reflects through who you are. So when you take action, though, you get results, right? And results are essentially the fruit on the tree, right? And when there's fruit on the tree, now all of a sudden these people that were busting your balls or ridiculing you before, and some people just be nice just to be nice, but the ones that are ridiculing you before are the ones that are probably the first ones that come to you afterwards and go, dude, look, you're looking a little put together compared to how you were. What, dude, for real? Like, I know I've been busting your chops and shit, but what are you doing? Right? It changes things. It changes things big time. And we're a big proponent of taking action in our program. That's why, early on we have an accelerator program that's what it is, dude. Like, stop being stale, start moving, start doing that, and little wins. And I've heard you say this before, Brian, on one of your posts, I believe it was, where you were talking about, like, stop trying to take on 30 different things. Like, get 3 things that you're going to do today that are going to move you forward. And they should be scheduled the day before. You should be proactive about all this stuff. You shouldn't be reactive the day of. You be proactive the day before so that you can attack the day and accomplish those things. And then you work on the other stuff if you need to, but get shit done.
Yeah, 100%. The consuming is the knowing, like we were just talking about with our kids, right? It's never been easier to consume. There is so much information out there for us. And oftentimes there's also, when we do consume and then do we declare that we might do something, probably should, I'm going to like say a soft ass language, like, but there's a little bit of a dopamine hit there. We declare that we're going to do something. We post something. How many people that we pay attention to just continually post the same bullshit motivation stuff on Instagram or whatever, and don't do a damn thing about it, And so stop, like, consume less, personally. Like, I'm in this season of my life of attempting to consume less and executing the F out of the things that, like, the people that I do pay attention to. Like, tighten up your circle. I didn't understand this for a while when I first started in this world. And like a couple of coaches that I had, they're like, yeah, that's great, but I'm not paying attention to that because I'm super focused on like these 2 things. Find you guys, find me, find your podcast, find mine, find another. Don't listen to either the 3 of us. Find somebody else. Like my wife, you laugh. She just did a Tony Robbins. She's been doing these Tony Robbins events, which, you walk into the house and she's like dancing everywhere. And they're great. Like, they're motivational. There's a ton of great content out of it, but like she got off of it. And this is the second time she's tried to get me to do this, is she really wants me to do some of their business coaching. Right. And it ain't cheap. And I think it would be a great thing. But I said to her, I'm like, listen, she did it again the other day when she was right in the middle of it. And I'm like, I have so many good things going on in my life right now and in my business. And I'm so focused on just a couple of inputs. Like this one coach I have for this, one coach I have for that, and taking action. I don't want to muck it up. I don't want another set of like people telling me what to do. I don't want another set of action steps. I just want to see this through and then move on to another season of my life, you know? And then from there, I'll reevaluate. I'm not saying this is not the right thing to do. It's just not the right thing for me to do right now. So in that vein of like getting momentum, how do you get momentum? You get momentum by doing things. Like momentum by definition is like the movement. So you can't get it until you start moving. And so I use the basketball analogy all the time, right? Because I'm a basketball guy. If I've made 4 shots in a row, like, and we're coming down the court, both of you fuckers get out of the way, get me the ball and just get out of my way. Right now, if I missed the last 5, I might go try to set a
Fill the
screen.
lane.
Yeah. I might
Yeah.
reverse the ball when Cam passes it to me.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of my hands. I might go set a screen. I might just kind of hide on the baseline, something. Like I don't have confidence. So see buckets, see the ball go in the hoop. Go get some buckets before you jack up your next long 3-pointer, which might be the proverbial, I'm going to take on this huge challenge in 2023. Well, that's cool and that's admirable, but like, can you stick to it? Or are you just going to find yourself in the cycle that you've been in of saying that you're going to do a lot and then only doing a little, because that quietly chips away at your self-confidence. And if it's okay to break, 2 or 3 promises to yourself a day or 5 or 10 a week, based on all the things that we say that we're going to do, then it's okay to break promises to my wife and tell her that I'm going to be home at, 8:30 and come home at 11, or be home, at 12 from golf and be home at 1:30. Like the more you keep promises to yourself, the more your confidence will skyrocket, right? It's your reputation with yourself. That's all confidence is.
Yeah.
Do you do the things you say you're going to do? And the guys in my program, I'm like, fellas, you want to make this real easy? I'll refund all your money. Say you're going to do things and then go do them. You don't need a coach. It doesn't matter. It might take you longer without some guidance along the way, but say you are going to do something and then go do it. Your life will change dramatically faster than you can ever imagine.
Solid, dude. Hey, this has been incredible. And just in an effort to keep the time tight and be respectful of your time, as we wrap up, tell us real quickly about Success Lift. I know you mentioned you have some kind of some taste of ice cream stuff you're putting out there, whatever, but just give us an idea of what that is. So if there's guys on here that are, more specific to your demographic and what you're doing, they can start tying into that and go from there.
Cool. Yeah. Listen, I appreciate you guys. It's been fun to run this back, as we say in hoops. You guys are on my show and now I'm on yours, and it's been incredible. And I'm looking forward to partnering with you guys in the future and paying attention to all the great things that you're doing. So thank you. I work with men. I work also with companies via some corporate wellness programs. I do some one-on-one coaching. I have some group coaching. My demo is, people like me 10 years ago, highly successful professionally, but at a cost, right? Things that we're doing in our life typically come at a cost. We have decided to spend the last 60 minutes together. The 3 of us could be doing something else. There's no such thing as a free lunch. That's economics 101, right? There's always going to be a cost, an opportunity cost. We gave up something else to talk today. I'm also a big fan of concepts like inflation. Decisions you do not make today. We all know what inflation is these days. Decisions you do not make today most likely will cost you more in the future. So if you're paying attention to Cam and JP and their programs, and you're deciding not to do anything about it, and deep down you need to do something, I would highly consider taking action today, because the choice that you finally make 5 or 10 years from now is going to cost you more, right? You don't want to work on your marriage today. A divorce attorney is going to cost a whole lot more 10 years from now, right? Chronic disease costs a whole lot more than a gym membership these days. Okay. So that was my little spiel right there. I have a podcast. It's called The Success Lift. You can check me out. I talk to, people like yourselves. I talk to professionals that have been highly successful that will tell you that they wish they did it a different way so that they could have had it all and they finally figured it all out. And sometimes I just rant in the microphone on my own. So that'd be a good place to check me out. You can check me out on social media. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. It's my name, Brian Pannuzzo. You can go to thesuccesslift.com. I have a 28-day video course that I would love to give away to your listeners for free. It's usually about $300. It's a condensed version of what it's like to work with me. It's actually how I live my life. So, if you're looking to model yourself after someone who you feel like has it figured out, I don't, but if you feel like I do, this is kind of how I live my life. It's not kind of, it is how I live my life. And it's also a condensed version of, what it would be like to work with me one-on-one. I send you a 3 to 5 minute video every morning in your email inbox. And then I ask you to take an action step, which is the key, right? Doing, not just knowing. So I'll help you, I'll help educate you, but then I'll ask you to actually do. And I promise you that if you do something daily or at least a few days a week for 28 days, your life will look different. Will it be dramatically improved? No, of course not. It's 28 days. Anybody tells you you can change your life in 28 days is lying to you and run from them. But you will make a lot of progress and you will have a better blueprint on what it is that can create some success in your life. And so if you go to thesuccesslift.com, you'll see my 28-day video course. It's called the Elite Dad Jumpstart. I know there's a decent amount of females that listen to this. It's not just for men. I just speak to men because I am a man, and this way I can't screw it up as much. I have like 30 or 40 women in the program. My wife is a fertility coach. She helps women get pregnant who can't, and all of her women get access to the program. Some of the corporate, some of the companies that I work for clearly have women that work for them. They get access to this. So it is for alpha people, alpha males, alpha females. And why don't we make a code so that your listeners can get it for free instead of having to pay for it? I'm staring at your sweatshirts. You want to do Reforged or SOM? Which one?
I think whatever's easier. Reforged is our program. So I think
Cool.
That's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So use the code Reforged at checkout and you'll get it for free. And then stay connected. You'll be prompted to stay connected to me. All right. If you don't stay connected to me, I'm going to be pissed. Let me know how you're doing. Keep me posted. Like, I want to be involved in people going through this and understanding what it is that's working for you, because you get access to me via email through the program, and you'll be surprised how much I will respond back. People are pretty shocked. I'll send you videos. I'll give you some ideas and help you any way I can. So if that's helpful to the listeners, I hope so. And I appreciate you guys.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you, man. Big time. And as we have future events, this is something we kind of lock people into while we're recording, so they can't step away from it. It's an audio contract. We'd love to have you come in and talk to our group sometime and do your thing for them, because we know it'll be hugely impactful. So just go ahead and say yes, and we'll get it on recording, and we'll go from there.
as we say in the trading business, we say done. We don't say yes. So
done.
You're done. You're done.
Yeah, it'd be phenomenal, dude. Phenomenal. Awesome. For sure.
I love that.
All right, brother. Well, hey, appreciate you big time. JP, you got anything else before we wrap?
No, that was great. Thanks, Brian. Glad to have you on here, man.
Man, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Awesome. For the rest of you, you've been a part of the movement.